Hola y bienvenido a Learn Spanish en SpanishDicts.com. Soy Paralee Whitmire y soy tu profesora. Today we'll be learning about weather and geography using the verbs hacer and estar, like hace frío hoy. Estamos a 33 grados y mucho más. ¡Vámonos! Before you travel to a new country, you should definitely check out the weather and the geography of that place. But while you're in a new country, asking a stranger about the weather is one of the easiest conversations you can have, and it will definitely improve your casual conversation skills. You could ask about the weather and then maybe ask a few more questions about what you should do if it's rainy, if it's hot, or if it's really cold. But before we get to the conversation, I have some explaining to do. The weather in Spanish and in English are very different. In English, if I ask you, what's the weather like? How would you start your answer? With it is, right? It is rainy, it is hot, it is cold. And in Spanish, you're not going to use either of the verbs that you know for it is, but rather you're going to use the verb for to make or to do, which is hacer. I know this doesn't make much sense now, but with a little bit of practice, you'll just get used to it. For the question today, what is the weather like? All you have to say is, ¿Qué tiempo hace? Repite, ¿qué tiempo hace? And I hope you noticed that the word for weather, el tiempo, is the exact same word as time, el tiempo. It's just one of those things about español. But if you ask me the question, ¿Qué tiempo hace? I could give you all kinds of answers. Hace calor. Hace calor. Hace frío. Hace frío. Hace viento. Hace viento. Hace sol. Hace sol. Hace niebla. Hace niebla. Hace nubes. Hace nubes. Did you notice that all of the answers were hace plus a noun, but without the definite article? That's how the weather works in Espanol. But I know what you're thinking. What about rain or snow? Well, these are exceptions. They actually have their own verb. So instead of using hace plus a noun, you just use the verb in the third person singular. Llueve. Llueve. Nieva. Nieva. Vale, una pruebita, a tiny quiz. I'm going to show you some pictures of places that you might visit while in a Spanish-speaking country. You tell me what the weather is like there, and I'll give you two options to choose from. ¿Listo? ¿Qué tiempo hace en la selva? Hace calor. ¿Qué tiempo hace en la playa? Hace sol. ¿Qué tiempo hace en la sierra? Hace frío. Bien, ahora podemos continuar la conversación. When you begin a conversation with someone about the weather, I know you want to say more than just, it's sunny or it's cold. But unless you're in the habit of watching the news every morning, you're going to want to know what the temperature is like, right? That's the next part of our conversation. And like a lot of things in Espanol, this one is a good bit different than English. Instead of using the straight translation for it is 80 degrees, where you would say it is, you're actually going to use a different verb, estar. Now you have a little bit of experience with this verb, but you use estar in the nosotros form because you're talking about the temperature as it is experienced by the speaker and those around him or her. For example, estamos a 40 grados. Estamos a 40 grados. Estamos a 30 grados bajo cero. O estamos a 30 bajo cero. I know, if you're from the United States, you're not used to using Celsius, but it's used pretty much everywhere in the world, so I hope you get used to it. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's not too hard. For everybody else, you're already ahead of us. Now, if you want to talk about the temperature somewhere far away from you, like if you're cold in New York City and you're talking about how warm it is in Miami, then you actually would use está. Está a 40 grados en Miami. Fácil, no? How about you practice a few? I'll show you some pictures of some different places with the thermometer. I want you to tell me the temperature in Celsius. If you see a person in the picture, use estamos. If you don't see a person, you'll just use está. Por ejemplo, aquí está una foto de la selva. No one is in this picture, and the thermometer shows 40 degrees Celsius. So all you have to say is, está a 40 grados en la selva. Vale, te toca. Estamos a 35 grados en la playa. Está a 0 grados en la sierra. Perfecto! Now, there are just a few more things to make sure that you are fully prepared to talk about the weather, how you are feeling, whether you're hot or you're cold, and the seasons of the year. Because if you're traveling to, say, Argentina in July and you're from the UK or the US, you're going to think, oh, it's summertime. But remember, the Southern Hemisphere seasons are the opposite of the Northern Hemisphere. So if you think it's going to be summer, you're quite mistaken because it's actually winter and could be quite chilly. But you need to know what the seasons are, right? And how to express how you're feeling. So let's start by combining them. Let's start with the hottest season, el verano, the summer. En el verano, hace calor. En el verano, hace calor. So, hace calor, which you already practiced, means it is hot. To say, I am hot, you say, tengo calor. I know, it's a little bit different than what you would think. You're not going to use estoy or soy here. You're going to need to use tengo calor every single time. Now, let's go to the coldest season, el invierno. En el invierno, hace frío. En el invierno, hace frío. So if hace frío means it is cold, and tengo calor means I am hot, how do you think you say I am cold? Tengo frío. Fácil, no? Now, all we have left are the other two seasons, and these are my favorite because they're neither hot nor cold. El otoño. Me gustan mucho las hojas bonitas en el otoño. I love the pretty leaves in the fall. La primavera. Me gustan mucho las flores en la primavera. I love the flowers in the spring.